All right, good morning, everybody. I see that we have quite a few different sectors represented on the call today, also from really all over Wyoming, it looks like, Cheyenne all the way up to Sheridan. So my name is Jennifer Martinez, and I am the Policy Coordinator for the Department of Workforce Services. I hope your week is off to a great start, and I'm excited to welcome you to our second session of the virtual training series. Today it is titled Tools for Lean Leadership. We have specifically chosen key topics, today's is leadership, to share with you based on feedback received from a customer survey our agency conducted back in July of 2023. So using those results, we essentially identified a variety of topics to provide to the public free virtual training on each month. And so to learn more about what other presentations we'll be offering throughout the year, please visit our DWS virtual training series calendar to register. It is located on our website, and I believe somebody will be posting that shortly in the chat. So for today's presentation, we have the honor to partner with Cheyenne Regional Medical Center and host two incredibly accomplished and well-versed experts in this topic. Throughout their presentation, please feel free to submit any questions in the Q&A feature, or you can type them in the chat. We will go ahead and keep track of those throughout the presentation, and the presenters will address them at the very end. So thank you, and please help me in welcoming Hans, Richard, and Tipsy.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to be here. We don't do video presentations very often, so you're going to see us rolling around in our chairs a little bit, but we really are privileged to give this talk. Just some context for everybody. This is a very intentional thing that Cheyenne Regional has been doing for about 6 or 7 years, and we've been intentional about a lean transformation because it's been demonstrated to dramatically help healthcare systems. And so the context here is an entire organization that has endorsed lean thinking. And we do teach a number of classes to ensure that the whole system understands what that is. And so what we're going to give you today is a very small sort of snapshot of kind of a moving train, if you will. It's a very big effort that we're doing. And so we just picked a few things. We could probably talk for 3 days. Our usual lean class actually lasts for 3 days. But we're just going to give you some highlights, and we'd be happy to entertain any questions you might have. So I'm going to start with this picture here. This is Taiichi Ohno, a Japanese businessman. And we always introduce any of our training materials with something about him. He's considered the father of lean, although that was not his term. He worked in weaving factories for years and years, and noticed that you could sell more tapestries if there were no defects. And so he perfected a way of staff and machine interactions that cut down not only on defects, but on the time that it took to make various things. Later, he went and worked at the Toyota Motor Car Company, and that's normally how we associate his work. He dramatically re-engineered what Toyota was doing at the time, and he did it so successfully that his approach, commonly called the Toyota Production System, has been copied in just about every enterprise, not just in the United States and Japan, but also around the world. As you can see, it started in manufacturing, as I said, but it is spread to many, many other enterprises. For example, we sometimes participate in the Colorado Lean Network, and we would commend that to anyone who might be interested. But the Colorado State Patrol, Denver Health, many law firms, many manufacturing firms attend these quarterly meetings in Colorado. We've met a number of people from various sectors. So we're sure this will apply to whatever you do. So we should start with a basic definition. This is what we tell our students to say whenever they run into an executive and, they've just spent 3 days with us, and maybe they encounter one of our VPs or one of our execs in the elevator. This is what we want them to say that they're learning, that the goal of Lean is to eliminate waste from work by involving the frontline staff in continuous improvement. And this has shown to be an easily understood and recallable kind of a statement. So when you think about Lean, you should always consider the fact that we assume there's waste built into our work. And we'll get into a better definition of waste here in a minute. But we teach our students to see the waste, and we're going to show you how to do that here in a minute. You have to see the waste if you're going to remove it from your work. Waste is anything that's not adding value to a process. And the way we do it is we do a bottom-up approach where we believe that the frontline staff are the best people to improve the work. They do the work, they see the work, they're involved in the work day by day. And so we're very intentional, especially as we teach our staff about Lean, to include plenty of frontline staff. These are people who directly touch a patient or a process, and they're the ones that we want to be Lean thinkers along with everyone else. And then the other thing that we know is any kind of improvement work is going to be incremental. And so we haven't given up. And it's been, as I said, 6 or 7 years we've been doing this, and we have seen a number of incremental improvements in our healthcare. And we set expectations so that people who come to our class, they understand they'll do a project. And then after that, they understand they're going to continue to be involved in Lean work. So that's how we summarize what we're doing. We also believe, as I just said, that respect for people means that the folks doing the work are the ones to be directly involved in improving the work. And you can see in these circles, we have staff from every unit in our hospital, not just clinical staff, but we also have many, many support staff. We've had leadership come through, and we have discovered that people genuinely would like to be involved in Lean improvements or Lean thinking because they understand that it can take some of the hassles out of healthcare. And so it's not just hassles for patients, but it's also hassles that they might encounter in doing their own jobs. We also incorporate change management principles in our Lean work. And we really believe that the core focus of change management, it's not the core focus of our talk today, but we believe that core change management really does demonstrate respect for people by engaging them in a series of activities and conversations so that they can work through any natural resistance that they might have to change. So on this slide, we have given what we consider to be kind of a thumbnail definition of value and waste. I alluded to it a minute ago. You can think of waste as anything somebody is doing that is taking time, money, resources, but it's not creating value for a customer. In our case, a lot of our customers are patients, but we also believe that we have internal customers. And so we understand waste to be things that we can stop doing. Value, on the other hand, is a product or a service that's provided to the customer at the right time at an appropriate price as defined by the customer. And this is a core concept in Lean known as the voice of the customer, where we have to understand what our customers, or our patients in our case, what they value. And we have to be willing to discontinue doing things that are not adding value. And you can easily think of other industries, other businesses where this voice of customer is an intentional pursuit. We have surveys that really every hospital administers. And we also have a patient and family advocacy council. And in some of our work, we've done focus groups with sets of patients to really understand what they value. Now, healthcare is more and more patient-centered, and we want to be leading the charge on that. So, Tiff, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks. So all this talk about waste is leading to our first lean tool, or our leadership tool, which is learning how to see the waste and then what to do about the waste once we find it. So lean has established that there are basically 7 different types of waste. And the way that you can think about these wastes are, these are lenses that you're looking at the environment or the processes that are being done in your area, and having your frontline staff look at this too. So instead of just reading this slide to begin with, we have a little video that we made here at the hospital. So I'm going to put that up and I'm going to talk over it, and then we're going to come back to this here in a second. So here's a video. We filmed it in the emergency department a few years ago that are going to talk about the 7 different wastes. The first waste is the waste of time. So this is any time that you're waiting for a product or a service or anything else. So we're starting off in the ED, time passes, waiting to see some people. So if you use the term waiting, it is a waste there, waste of time. Our second waste is the waste called overproduction. And this is when you're making too much of something, or you're making products that you're not going to use. So maybe if there's a lab that needs to be drawn, getting that many vials of blood could be problematic. The third waste is the waste of motion. This is your staff or you making too many trips back and forth to get what you need. A defect is anything that's done incorrectly or has to be redone. So waste associated with that. If you're able to walk into the emergency room on your own feet with your arm in a sling, the ankle x-ray might not be what you need. The fifth waste is transport. This is the flip side of motion, and this has to do with the movement of your patients or your customers or your products. An inventory here, waste of inventory can be too much or too little. So not having what you need or having a little bit too much of what you need. And our final waste is overprocessing. This is when you're having to do too many steps to get to your final product or final idea. So those are 7 wastes as filmed in our emergency department. And we'll talk through these one more time. We'll pull this back up. So the idea here, once again, time is anytime you're waiting. And instead of getting into each one of these, maybe think through something that you're already looking at, or a process that you do, or even look around your office. Do you have too much of something on hand? Or do you have too little on hand? That can be a waste. Now, one of the things that you won't notice on here is this idea, you don't see people anywhere. And that is because people are never a waste. We are never focused on the people. We are always focused in lean on the process or on the environment where people are doing their value added steps, and trying to eliminate those wastes or the hassles that get in the way of people doing as much value added as possible. But we also realize that there are some of these things that you might look around and look at your processes of, And you think from the voice of the customer, from the aspect of the customer, they are not adding value to the customer. And we totally recognize we are in healthcare. We have a lot of policy and regulation that might not impact the patient directly. And so we divide all of our waste also into what we call type 1 or type 2 waste. Type 1 waste is this idea that we have to do it because of policy or regulation, and we have to do it, or even it's because it's considered business value added. An example of this might be that we as a hospital, we run a call center, and the call center it works with payments, they contact patients, and really truly that's not something that every patient coming through would want to pay for. However, we have to do that because it is business value added. So we do recognize that there are some things that have to be done. Type 2 wastes are these wastes that we just had talked about, that once you stop, it's great. We can stop it, we can move on, and there's no additional problems, and we're starting to add more value then by eliminating these wastes as we go forward. So depending upon your own industry that you're in, you might be super regulated by policies and regulations, and that's great. It does not mean that we can't find waste. And so within those type 1 or regulation things, you can still look at ways to remove the waste while still meeting those requirements. And to throw out a little bonus, if our catchy little video didn't really hit you, then there's this idea of Ohio, and I think some people have maybe heard of this already. And the acronym stands for Only Handle It Once. And the way that I see this is, if you are working with a product or a process and you're handling something more than once, it could be a trigger in the back of your head to maybe say, oh, maybe there might be some waste associated with this process. So now coming to the actual first tool that we have, we're talking about waste, we're teaching about waste, but our first tool for lean leadership here is the idea of doing a waste walk or engaging your staff in what is called a waste walk. And the waste walk is a great way to get your staff engaged in looking at their own processes, at their own environments, and looking for those 7 different types of waste that we have seen so far. And we do this, we pull everybody together, you get all your staff together. It's very scalable depending upon your department. You can do it with everybody. With a small department, you can do massive departments. But we start with the introduction. We do the teaching, very similar to what you just saw. You teach your staff about what these 7 wastes are. You can use the video. There's other videos out there. And then you do an actual waste walk. And this waste walk, you take, everybody has sticky notes, little pads of sticky notes throughout the, and they walk around their environment. They think about their processes that they do. And one by one, they're writing down the things that fit into those 7 categories as they walk about on their own. And then at the end of a certain period of time, bring all the staff back together and start processing these wastes. And what this does normally is you have somebody read out a waste, and if anybody else has that same waste, we gather them together and we stick them on a waste wheel, which you can see there in the orange box. It's a little faded, but you can see there's a waste wheel in the middle and all these stickies that come about. And this is a way to get your frontline staff engaged and to really start to identify these areas that are considered hassles in their own workplace. So then when we move forward and you start collecting all the waste wheels, you might end up with something that looks like this picture on the left. This was a very, very large department and had a lot of people engaged in the waste walk. What you might notice are there's some little black dots that you can see on some of those stacks. And those are actually stickies that are a whole stack of the same stickies. So that indicates that a bunch of staff members wrote down that exact same waste. And so it was a waste that impacts a lot of people. Lean is all about making things visual. And so this is a great way to start to say, hey, this is something that we can maybe start to look at. So when you get your identified waste, they turn into what we call just do it's, or more into projects. And a just do it is something you can just do. If somebody has to walk 3 rooms over to get to a trash can, buying a trash can and putting it in that other office is a just do it. We just do it. It helps to fix that waste of motion that they had to go into the other room. But a project is going to be a little bit bigger. That normally focuses on a process and can evolve into kind of a within your own department project, or if they're really big, then they can go into interdepartmental projects. So as the first lean tool, you want to help to get your staff to start thinking about their own processes and their own environments, and to identify these wastes, and then start one by one taking care of them as much as you can, either through the just do it's or evolving them into projects. And now I'm going to turn it over back to Hans, who's going to start introducing us to our second tool, and also how these wastes can be incorporated into that. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Tiff. So this is a quote from a former vice president. She worked here for years and years. And she made an observation to me whenever I first started working here. And she said, we can pretty much start anything that we want, but we've never had much success at keeping it going. And so for those of you who do improvement work, you'll recognize this sentiment. We face it in our improvement work often. And so the next tool that we're going to suggest to you is to get things to stick. That's the purpose of it, to get things to stick. And so we call it Lean Daily Management. And essentially it's a forum in front of a visual board that demonstrates respect and focuses people on things that are important. And we have done a very large Lean Daily Management rollout here in our facility. And we now have the majority of people doing this every day with their own unit. And here you can see our inpatient rehab team, and they're focused around a good old-fashioned whiteboard with some yellow tape. And we're going to tell you a little bit about what's on that board. This is a interesting chart that we like. It shows the richness of various kinds of communication from cold to hot, and then plots that against how effective it is. And so notice where email lands, sort of right there in the middle. A phone conversation or a video conversation would be even better. But what we see here is the finding that a face-to-face meeting at a whiteboard or some other visual format really is your best form of communication. So this breaks it down into the 4 key things. It should be every single day, and it should be at a time which is convenient for most of the staff. It should be structured, and we're going to show you the structure here in a minute. It should be team owned and team led, and so we mandate that everyone who's at work attend these huddles or Lean Daily Management sessions. And it should be a shared visual board. And many of our places here in the hospital are using whiteboards. Some are using virtual boards of one kind or another, but it has to be visual, and it should be accessible to the whole entire team. So these are the 4 essential areas that we believe should be on your LDM board. Today's work really is some depiction of what's happening on the unit, and then matching demand with staff, or matching demand and resources appropriate for that particular unit. So for example, in a lot of our nursing units, we have what we call a bed board. The bed board has room numbers, it has a patient ID, it has a assigned a nurse, a physician, some phone numbers and things like that. So just at a glance, you can see what is today's work. In our little area, we have it organized differently, and we're going to give you some examples of that here in a minute. The top right quadrant is for your performance improvement projects. And these are things that are underway, that are being addressed on a regular basis. And we show data, we show progress. Sometimes we have survey results. Lots of times we suggest the next steps be put up there, but this is your corner for making your improvements stick. Then we have a bottom left area that we call rocks in our shoes. And these are things, these are hassles that the staff are facing. And they have an opportunity to stand and record these things. And the assumption is that somebody is going to be working on these things, and they stay up there on that board until there's some kind of shared understanding about a reasonable resolution to the concern. And so we see all sorts of things. If you walk through our facility, many of our LDN boards are public, you'd see a variety of things that are on our staff, on their minds. And then finally, in the lower right, this is something that a lot of units already do well, but we formalize it with a team section. And they're advised that they can put anything there concerning the team: birthdays, anniversaries, educational milestones, maybe a joke of the day, maybe a fun question that they might answer. But we've discovered people are having a lot of fun with this section. So we're going to go through each of the sections a little bit more with a little more detail. The picture there on the left, this is our today's work taken from our staffing office. They're the ones who are responsible to make sure that we have enough staff based on our census, or the number of patients we have on each floor. And so you can see it's broken out. You can see in the third column over, it says RNA versus CNA. And then the next column is any patient that might need one-on-one help. And so this is updated every single day and used exactly as you might use on your own LDN board. Over on the other side is a different kind of a unit where they have listed team members and some depiction of the work that they have to do. And I don't know if you can tell on the screen, but they're little puzzle pieces, because this was developed at a time when two teams were coming together. And the puzzle pieces have 3 different colors, which indicate whether they have any bandwidth to help their team members, their fellow teammates out, or whether they're really swamped. So red would be, please don't bother me today, I've got a lot of things going on. Yellow would be, I might be able to help. And then green would be, I'm here to assist if you need help. So different ways of depicting today's work. As I already said, we don't have any nifty charts on this slide, but the core notion here is that you really do want to keep your improvement work in front of the staff. And which data and metrics and trends and so forth you might show there would be up to the unit leader or the department leader. In some units, we actually have the organizational vision, mission, and some of our goals to keep people focused on those. But this really becomes a function of whatever it is that you're trying to improve. So this is an interesting couple of charts, and I'll spend a minute on it here. If you think back to that inpatient rehab picture that you saw a minute ago, these are some data that they tracked on their LDN board. And the one on the left is patients who fell at a particular point in time during a month. Obviously, 0 is the goal for patient falls. We don't want any of them at all. And so what they discovered, I don't know if you can read the label on the x-axis, but at around April, May, June of 2019, they had a noticeable trend up. And so they decided to track falls on their Lean Daily Management Board. And you can see dramatically from June 19 all the way over to December 2020, about a year and a half, they had very, very few falls. And then for whatever reason, I think they thought maybe they had fixed the problem. They stopped tracking it starting the following month. And you can see falls kind of resumed the baseline level. So this is an example of something we care a great deal about in healthcare. And so that is something that they, I think they still track. And we don't have an updated chart, but it shows the value of Lean Daily Management compared to not making it visual. On the right, we have the same group of people, whether or not they used hand sanitizer before they went into a patient room or had a patient interaction. And you can see that they pretty much eliminated situations where people forgot to do it by tracking it on their Lean Daily Management Board. So we have these data, we have a lot more data. We had to pick through a lot of charts to figure out what you might be most interested in, but we have lots and lots of evidence that Lean Daily Management makes a big difference in your improvement projects. So this is the section I've already mentioned. This is rocks in our shoes. And one of the things we do suggest to the various units is they can label these quadrants any way they want. And so this unit called Rocks in Our Shoes, Things That Drive Us Crazy. There at the bottom, you see another units board, but these can be written up by any staff member at any time because the board is accessible. And then they're discussed during the Lean Daily Management huddle. And finally, we believe that teamwork is the essence of great healthcare. And so you can see down in the lower left, we have what we call TrueCare Standards of the Month. And this is a good place where you might depict or post your corporate behavioral standards. You can also, as I've already mentioned, you can track anniversaries, birthdays, lots of different things. People really do enjoy this part. You can see here, penguins are one of my favorite birds because they walk funny. It's like they pooped their pants. So that was the comment of the daughter of one of the nurses. And so we encourage people to be creative with these and make your LDM interactive and value added. Okay, one last slide on this before we move on a little bit. You can have as many subcategories as you might like. You can pick when and where you're going to hold your LDM. Just make sure it's in a consistent place at a consistent time. And we generally suggest not more than 10 or 15 minutes each day, although some units do go longer. Staff lead it. They can change as time goes by. And we've come to understand that our staff really rely on the information on these LDM boards to participate in their units. So Tiff, your turn.
Okay. So like Hans said, the LDM boards can be always and should be always updated to make sure that they're staying value added. And it's a great way to develop your own team and to use the creativity that your team might have. You might notice the board on the left is a ocean theme. And they have a catch of the day for today's work. All aboard is a team. Building rough waters goes back to that concept of the rocks in our shoes, and full speed ahead is their performance improvement quadrant. This is a great way to make it fun, make it engaging. You can make it seasonal. And so it's a team building in and of itself, just making the board. The right picture is one that Hans had mentioned earlier as far as the teamwork with the puzzle pieces, but this also was a combination of two different departments coming together. And they use the board and the development of the board to kind of create a theme around this idea of them coming together and figuring out the pieces and how they are going to be working together. So it's a great way to be creative and to do team building around that. You don't have to make them creative at all. We have a lot of very black and white and just straightforward LDMs, but it helps to match the culture of your department, however that might be. And if you're intimidated a little bit about doing this on your own in your own department, you can always try it in your personal life. A lot of people have implemented this. When we were getting ready to roll this out as a department even, I was a little hesitant to get on board. And I was also about to go on a vacation where I took my husband and my mother-in-law and aunt-in-law down 150 miles of the Upper Missouri River Breaks, which is a area of Montana, central Montana. It's a beautiful Lewis and Clark area, but it's super remote. And taking these lovely ladies down 8 nights on this river where we had to have everything with us, and it needed to be safe. And here we are as a family. And so we created our own version of Lean Daily Management with those 4 different quadrants that Hans had introduced, and conducted it every morning. You can see us sitting down there in our chairs. That's Scott, and then his aunt and his mom. And we conducted this daily to make sure that we were hitting on all those quadrants. Because even though we're family, I'm sure we all know that sometimes family on 8 days in an area like this can get a little touchy. But what you can see is on the blue area, that has to do with today's work. It had to do with the amount of river miles we were doing, camps, most importantly toilets, because if not, you had to pack it out. And then matching our demand with our resources, which were the 4 of us as paddlers. We also did things that we were working on, which was our performance improvement section. I'm notoriously bad about putting on sunscreen, so I had that as my performance improvement, was I needed to apply sunscreen at least twice a day. So I was able to track that. Things we care about was a great forum of being able to discuss concerns that came up while we were on the river, so that we had that open source communication, and then a fun question to develop the team. We planned this all out. We started this, we were working on it, and we did not know that my aunt-in-law at the time was kind of encountering some memory issues. And she found that being able to refer back to this every day throughout the entire day was a great way of getting her to be engaged. And she said that it was because of the Lean Daily Management and us all working together as a team that got both of them successfully down the Upper Missouri. So if you're wanting to try it out, test it out at home, it's a great way to play with it and to engage. And then to finish out our LDM idea, once that you have it established in your own departments, it can be used as an entire communication system, indicating, so this little idea of a red piece of thought that can start at a high level board. This might be like the vice presidents or the executives, and they have this thing that they want everybody to know about. They share it with their direct reports, who they do an LDM with every day. Those direct reports take it to their own huddles and share the information, tier it down. And then once again, those direct reports can take it down to the frontline staff, however your levels would work in your facility. The same way is that with rocks in our shoes or things that the staff brings up as far as wastes or some things that are bothering them and cannot be resolved at that lower department, those can also get tiered up to the appropriate level. And so within about a 48 hour period, information is being cascaded down, and information is also being cascaded back up. And so to tie our first waste to the LDM, or sorry, our first tool, which was the waste walks to LDM, the management of those wastes, once they have been identified, can move through this Lean Daily Management idea to talk about what are we working on, how are we getting this resolved, and then celebrating it with the team that waste was eliminated during that. And then of course, rocks in our shoes is always a great way to help to identify those wastes and to help manage them, and as to get them resolved and moved out of the workplace. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Hans to talk about the third leadership tool. Here you go.
Okay. The last tool we're going to give you today is what we call a Gemba walk. A Gemba walk is an opportunity for a leader in an organization to go out on the floor where the work is being done and be present. And Gemba is a Japanese word meaning the place where the work happens. We give you this old reference here. It's not a new article. It's from Harvard Business Review. But the claim I think that these two professors made is still true, that executives or leaders are both on the balcony and they're on the shop floor. And so in one sense, they spend a considerable amount of time thinking about strategy, thinking about the direction of the company. But on the other hand, they need to be on the shop floor where the work is actually getting done. And this is something that even today, the Toyota continues to use when they train their new leaders. So we have structured these Gemba walks as a way for leaders to go see, that is, go see the people who are doing the work, ask why and how the work is being done, so that they're kind of like a clerk or an intern or a student, not really there to do anything more than learn. And then finally, we want them to show respect. And by that, we mean appreciation, genuine gratitude, genuine interest in people. And when they go and they see and they ask why and they show respect, they reinforce our lean culture. And the two authors there of this article, they suggest that when leaders are out with staff, their main job is framing challenges that are being encountered rather than providing on-the-spot solutions or taking lists of things back to their office to work on. They're really saying things like, well, tell me more about that. Why is that happening? How does it occur? When you encounter a challenge like that, what do you normally do? So the walks reinforce the idea that the frontline staff are involved in making improvements. So to roll this out here, we actually scheduled our executives on the first several years that we launched Lean Thinking. And initially we went with them, members of our little team went with them to ensure that they had a good experience. And they have since maintained this, and several of them are doing it now on a regular basis. But the other thing that we think is a possibility and often happens is that in units that are using LDM, when a leader comes out to the unit, the leader can stop in front of that board and interact with any staff member about anything that's up on that board and get to know the staff member better, point out improvement efforts that are important, and interact with the things that are really key on that unit. So we're going to conclude at this point. We want to allow plenty of time for any questions that may have come in. This is a quick summary that Lean really is about eliminating waste and involving the frontline staff in continuous improvement efforts. And so when we use a structured waste walk, and these things can take anywhere from maybe an hour to 2 hours to do one thoroughly by the time we do the teaching, and then they walk around their area looking for waste, and then we process those things. It's really the best way to get people thinking about Lean when it's a new concept. We use LDM to make things stick. We use LDM to focus on our improvement work, to develop respect and teamwork among staff members, and to make good on our claim that Lean takes the hassles out of healthcare, not just for patients, but also for staff. I've just mentioned Gemba walks. Many folks have asked, well, how are you doing this at Cheyenne Regional? Essentially, we have structured Lean Thinking into bite-sized pieces. For some folks, We offer as little as 1 full day of training. We just did this for an office here in town, not part of our hospital. They came over for a full day. We have typically offered 3 full days for our staff members. And then we also offer an advanced lean course, which is more hands-on, and that lasts about 6 months because we coach participants, staff members through that entire 6-month period to make sure that they get their project done. So there are many, many other things that we could say, but if we keep talking, then we won't have a chance to address your questions. So Tiff, did you want to say anything else?
I think we're good.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Hans and Tiff. That was a great presentation. I don't know if anybody else did, but I was laughing out loud at some of those moments, especially the video. Anybody, please feel free to throw your questions in the chat as you're kind of thinking through the presentation. But we do have one so far. And the question is, how often do you conduct formal Kaizen events?
So we do that quite frequently. A Kaizen event is a longer meeting where we would intentionally go after a unique value stream or a set of steps that we would like to improve. They can last anywhere from just a few hours to even a day or more. And we do these regularly. I think, how many are we doing this month?
Well, this week we have 2.
we have 2 this week alone. So it's quite frequent. And, you know, some of them are planned well in advance and some of them come up because we need to address something quickly. It's a great question. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I see that we have one more question. Is this meeting recording going to be sent out via email? Yes, so I can go ahead and answer that one. We will be go ahead and sending out a follow-up email to everybody who registered for the event. And just so you are aware, that information is also going to be posted. A recording of this actual presentation is also going to be posted on the website. And I believe we will probably be throwing that link here in the chat soon. You can also use that link to register for future events as well. And then also, I'm not seeing any questions just yet. We'll give it a few more minutes. And in the meantime, too, we'd also ask, if you guys don't mind, to submit or answer a survey we have. So we are going to ask that you please provide feedback on today's presentation. I thought it went wonderful. Thank you guys so much for all the information. I have no idea how you condensed 3 days of information into 1 hour, but it went very smoothly and it was awesome. All stuff that I think everybody really enjoyed learning about. So it looks like Yvonne went ahead and posted
Jennifer.
in there. Is that the link, Erin?
Hold on just a second. I think we do have another question that we might have missed. Any ideas on how to pair lean leadership with a strategic plan?
Yes, we have a lot of ideas about that. So by nature, the strategic plan is something that has been developed, we think, by the senior leaders of an organization. And we also believe that probably every single last person in the organization should have some awareness of it. So at a very broad level, we have had a number of occasions where we have taken the strategic plan directly to lean daily management. One thing that we did skip is that these huddles, because they happen frequently, provide a great opportunity for leaders to show up and emphasize some part of the corporate strategy, right? It's different maybe from a town hall or a large company meeting because it's interactive, and often the strategy, in our experience, is something that can probably be summarized on a fairly small piece of paper or two. And just the practice of showing up at these huddles and then interacting directly with the staff on their understanding of the strategy that can add tremendous value. The other thing that most lean organizations do intentionally is they tie improvement work to the strategy through annual goals. Some places have annual goals, some, maybe every 2 or 3 years, but we're very intentional in tying our lean work and sometimes to those goals. And sometimes the executives will commission some kind of lean improvement project directly related to strategy. But at other times, these initiatives will come from our students. We have taught 550 staff out of about 2,100 over the last several years. Each one of them had 3 days of lean thinking. They are expected to complete a project associated with some aspect of the class. And so we push them in the direction of doing things that contribute to our corporate strategy. And so we tell our customers, our patients, and our staff all the time that the more we tie our work to the voice of our customer and to the strategy of the organization, the more successful our work will be. Now, having said that, we don't always have an executive who sponsors every single project, but we are very, very intentional in linking what we do. And we use a variety of forms and standard work to complete our lean projects. And our charter, which lays out what we intend to do at the beginning of a project, actually links the work to the hospital strategy. So it's a super important concept, and we believe lean is an ideal approach to linking everything back to that strategy.
Great, thank you. We did have another question, and I wasn't sure if I had addressed this yet or not, but they were wondering if you were going to share the slideshow. I know that you all had provided us with like a flyer, some additional kind of resources that outline, lean leadership, but I wasn't sure if the slideshow was going to be provided.
We can do that. We can send that to you following this so that you can send it or attach it how you would otherwise.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. I think the only other, we have a comment from somebody. It just said, it looks like they mentioned, it sounds a lot like this is similar to Lean Sigma 6. I don't know what that is, but maybe you guys are familiar with that term.
Yes, so Lean and Six Sigma are often said in the same little phrase with a little slash between Lean and Six Sigma. And it's a way of denoting that these two approaches to improvement work often go hand in hand. One slight difference between the two of them is that Six Sigma is a reference to the number of rates or the number of errors that happen in 1 million occurrences of something. And so it's very statistical. It's ideal for manufacturing processes where maybe you're making millions of parts for some product. And so in Six Sigma, the focus is on reducing variation to that Six Sigma level. Sigma is a reference to standard deviation. So 6 standard deviations out. And so in healthcare, we find that lean thinking is more accessible. That is, it's more easily understood. It's more easily applied. We can't get variation probably in our processes down to a Six Sigma level. So they're often taught together. They share many foundational theoretical concepts in common. But overall, we have found that lean is easily understood and readily applied. And as long as we're available to do lots of coaching, things go great.
Great, thank you. So we do have another question. And the question is, when your team is across multiple locations with some remote workers, what tools do you suggest over a physical whiteboard?
So we have quite a few departments like that too. And we have implemented kind of a hybrid model, depending on the department. We have used tools such as we have the Microsoft Suite. So we use Microsoft OneNote where everybody can be in it, modifying it at the same time. We've used a product like SharePoint, but no, and even Microsoft Teams can be used. No matter what it is, it needs to be accessible by everybody on the team. And so you can still create that idea with the 4 different quadrants in whatever your virtual platform is. We do require, cameras to be on so that you're still getting that face-to-face. And we've also done it where for some departments where there are some hybrid workers or maybe partially in person versus versus at work at home, there still is a physical meeting where people are surrounding a virtual board or on a screen, and so the people who are physically there that day can show up, but then they can also call in. But no matter what, we're all still there. We're all around that visual board, whatever platform you might use, and engaging with the 4 different areas.
Great, thank you for providing those resources. It looks like we do have another individual who would like to ask a question. Brenda, I'm going to go ahead and just select allow to talk, and we'll hope this works. Okay, we can't hear you, and it looks like you maybe lowered your hand. Troy, did you have a question, or did we already address your question? Okay, it looks like his hand was lowered also. All right, so we've got about 4 more minutes. If you have any questions, I know that you can, feel free to reach out to either of them. I know sometimes it takes a little bit of time to let this information sink in. I've already seen some comments in the chat that people are going to be rewatching this to take better notes, so that is awesome. Again, just a reminder, if you haven't already, please complete our feedback survey. And then we are also going to put a link in the chat for our next session. That is going to be next month. It's going to be held on March 12th, and it's titled Securing Success, Mastering Workers' Compensation with Strategic Risk Management. And, please feel free to register for that session if you're interested in kind of gaining insight into the different discount programs, base rates, EMRs, those experience modification ratings, and other services kind of related and tied to workers' compensation. So thank you all very much. Again, if I could do a round of applause, I would. But thank you both so much, and we appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everyone.